welcome. It's season 5 of GT3 racing in Assetto Corsa Competizione, as hosted by Apex Online Racing. And round 1 will take place at the Circuit de Catalunya near Barcelona in Spain. And the field for this season, for Tier 7, which is what we'll be covering, is just one of 8 tiers. There were over 330 drivers who signed up for this season, and the distillation process to select drivers of tiers was undertaken by a time trial shootout and evaluation races and a look back at drivers' performances in previous seasons where applicable. So we're just looking at Conall McCarthy right now. Conall was the champion of Tier 7 last season, Season 4, taking 3 victories in his journey towards the top of the championship in Kyalami, Silverstone and Bathurst. Bathurst being a particularly difficult race to win usually. The mountain often takes a lot of victims. So Conall has selected the Lamborghini again, the car that took him to victory last season out, and I'm sure he'll be looking to repeat his exploits. And just in front of him there on the practice session is Nils Nins. Nils came second last season out in his McLaren 720S GT3. He's chosen particularly lurid yellow tonight, as his teammate. I think I might have to have words with him about that one, because we could be accused of eyeball strain on the other competitors before the season is out. And now we're just looking at McCormack in the Nissan. Again, a very pink car, so with the yellow and pink going on tonight, there could be some real eyeball strain for the drivers before the event is over. I'm afraid there's some drivers I don't have a lot of info about if they've come from fresh into Assetto Corsa Competizione, so I couldn't find out much information from previous seasons. A number of drivers in Tier 7 were also in Tier 6 last season, but didn't feature in the top 10 from what I can find out. Just with Lord Nem now. I'm not sure if he really is a Lord, something perhaps we can evaluate as the season goes on. I'd have thought a Lord would be driving a Bentley, and Lord Nem has selected the BMW. And just with Yellon now in the Ferrari number 65, this is the other team that have registered. There's only 2 teams registered for Season 7 at the moment. Hopefully that will expand as the rounds move on. And Yellon showing a great deal of respect to his fellow drivers there, waiting at the end of the pit lane as those on a lap go through, even though it's only practice. I believe SVRT had better time to organise themselves, as they've both got matching liveries. And we're just with Ragnarsson now in the Mercedes, and a brief glance of our league coordinator this season, Manuel Duque, in his Bentley with SpongeBob SquarePants. Very nice. Let's join Daniel Blomqvist on his pole setting lap around the Circuit de Catalunya. It's on the start-finish straight and commencing his lap. Good long straight this. And as you get to the end, you'll see that drivers are able to move over slightly onto the curbing and the AstroTurf on the left to try and widen T1 as much as possible, straight into T2. With the car to the middle of the track, lift the throttle lightly and then down on the throttle again for turn 3. Super long right-hander. Carrying as much speed as you can as you straighten the car up, braking perhaps just before the bridge, bring it into turn 4. And then back on the throttle again on the short straight into the tricky turn 5. This is a hairpin, but doesn't feel like it when you're approaching, and you're really easy to make a small mistake here and cost yourself some time. Sweep down the hill, little kink in the track is turn 6, then into the tight turn 7 called TV3. Careful you don't exceed track limits, and then up the hill, sweeping around turn 9. Carry a lot of speed through turn 9 if you're brave enough. Then it's into the short straight that within the Formula 1 is where is a DRS zone. Then braking hard for the very difficult turn 10 hairpin. So easy to go wide here and pick up penalties that may lead to a drive-through. Then through the kink of turn 11, Then around the double apex turn 12, very short straight and over the blind crest. Brake hard for turn 13. Brake as you go underneath the banner across the top of the track. Through the chicane that forms 14 and 15. Then round the sweep in turn 16. And it's over the line. And Daniel here setting a pole position time of 1:44.418. So having a quick look at the results from qualifying, Daniel Blomqvist there in pole position, followed by Dale Harris in second and Conal McCarthy in third. But just 0.6 of a second covering the first 6 cars out of qualifying. And then from 8th all the way down to 22nd place, all those cars within 1 second of each other, all in the 145s. Then from 23rd down to 29th, they're all covered by another second, all in the 146s, with just Kenton Robinson and Steve Bezic just rounding out the field in the 147s. So the drivers now lining up side by side, ready for the start, just coming into the chicane, so just a couple of corners to go before they start the lap proper. Just coming round turn 16 now. Blomqvist on pole position, having just set that qualifying lap. Harris alongside him, qualified in second, and the flag has dropped, they're away, and Harris and Blomqvist side by side approaching turn 1. Connell and another Lamborghini of Hume, close attendance. Van Rooyen just a little too far back. Oh, it looked like Hume went wide there. Across the corner, that's Lad Van Rooyen through into 4th. But it's Blomqvist holding on to 1st. Harris slipping back into 2nd. McCarthy 3rd. And Van Rooyen, I think, got 4th. See the whole field now coming round the hairpin of turn 4. Oh, there's a Porsche there in the middle of a track. Oh, that's not where you want a car to be. Lots of collisions, car up in the air. And a number of cars involved in that incident. The 71 Mercedes Couture getting lots of damage there. The Porsche teleporting back to the pits. And Ivanov's in the Lexus with significant damage to that vehicle. He's going to definitely have to pit for repairs, and I don't know how long they'll take to complete either. Not a great opening lap for our drivers. But the field's still reasonably bunched up despite that. Big packs of cars. 31 cars on the track, so it's quite a big field. It looks like Nins there has some handling problems. Rear end stepping out on him, and damage on the back of his car, which does sort of follow up into Beeswax Racing. Came 2nd in last season in Tier 7, so not a great start for his season. Yep, and he's diving straight into the pits to get whatever that damage is repaired. Hopefully try and sort out the handling of his car. Antonis McCormick and Dagda Power Nissan trying to have a look at the Lamborghini of Hume. Hume started in 4th place, remember. So Hume tumbled down the field, showing 13th at the moment, and it looked like McCormick's got that pass made. So Hume slowly slipping backwards. McCormick there, that should be moving into 13th place. So with Przarski now attacking Sajak, coming onto a start-finish straight. Sajak of SVRT Racing in the Ferrari, Przarski in the Aston Martin. Looks to be making a move up the inside. It's a good clean overtake, it's got the better line. Textbook overtake by Przarski. Sajak looking to try and get back, but going to be difficult. It's not completely over though. Przarski's on a Slightly over to the right of the track there. Won't give him the ideal line into the big hairpin bend at number 4, but it looks like he's closed off the apex. Sajak moving around, trying to find a way through, but it looks like Przajewski's got that place solid now. He'll take a reverse attack from Sajak over the next lap. Is right on each other though, bumper to bumper. Meanwhile, just behind, Becker trying to close in on James Freight in the Audi number 91. You see Sajak just in front there, so the battle very close up and down the field, although we are still just 3 laps in. And Alexis there trying to have a look up the inside of John Becker's Ferrari. Alexis looking to the left, looking to the right, desperately trying to find a way through. Just behind the Lexus of Danny Merchant is it Daniel Hume? Declan Hume, my apologies. Declan qualified in 4th, so slid down to 12th. I'm sure he won't be too pleased with that for the opening race. There was always a possibility that the 3 drivers in front may have a coming together as they attempt to get past each other. Declan will be there to capitalise, but they're running nose to tail at the moment. The front of the field, 4 laps in, it's still Blomqvist being pursued by Harris. I don't think the gap's ever got more than half a second between the pair of them. McCarthy just in the background, but just over a second behind. Can the current Tier 7 champion make an impression on these two before the end of the race? Meanwhile behind, Becker closes in on Freight. Still looking for a way past. I think Sajak may be coming back towards this group of 4 as well. Przajewski now has moved 3 seconds clear of Sajak. Looks like the Lexus there of Danny Merchant made a small mistake. Declan wasn't close enough to get through in the Lamborghini. Yeah, Przajewski has moved 3 seconds clear of Sajak. Sajak now just 2 seconds ahead of this group. Harris making a bit of an attack to Blomqvist at the front of a race. Gap now just 0.2 of a second. Looking for a way through. Will Blomqvist yield to the pressure that Harris is trying to put on him? Harris looking to the right and then probably going to look to the left. He's coming through turn 7 up the hill towards turn 9. A big sweeping right-hander into the short straight. Don't think Harris is close enough to make a bold attack into the hairpin turn 10. Still Harris remains behind Blomqvist. Oh, Harris lost the rear end there. Car slid on him. Just managed to stop himself sliding into Connell. In order to avoid the traffic, Harris goes around the long way around the chicane. He's certainly not gained any time there, but rejoins in 3rd place. So Harris slips down to 3rd. Connell McCarthy moves to 2nd. And that'll make things a little bit easier for Blomqvist. So the gap now 2 seconds between Blomqvist and McCarthy. Meanwhile, at almost exactly the same time, Becker finally makes his attack on James Freight, gets up the inside of turn 5. Side by side as they sweep down towards turn 7, the difficult left-hander. And Becker's made that stick. Danny Merchant's in close attendance, but Freight has not made any gaps for him to get through. So at last, after a lot of effort, Becker gets through ahead of Freight. His next target will be to close in on Sajak, just a couple of seconds up the road. Further back, Lord Nem closing in on Steve Bezic in the McLaren. Fortunately for Manuel Dukes, just there in the background in his SpongeBob SquarePants Bentley. I'm sure Bentley never imagined that when they were rolling the cars out of the factory. One of the cars would end up with SpongeBob SquarePants on the side. Dukes is a lap down. Must have had caught up in all that difficulty at the start of the race. Looks like there's only 28 runners at the moment from a starting field. I tell a lie, there's 30 runners from a starting field of 31. We've only lost one car, which is good. So Lord Nem now is moving between half a second and a second behind the McLaren in front of Beeswax Racing. It's like Lord Nem lost a bit of speed there. And that's straight. Very much offline. I think Manuel Dukes trying to get out of the way because he's got cars coming around that are lapping him, fortunately. So the Mercedes of Coutillard, who we saw in the incident at the start of the race, closing in quickly on Lord Nem, just 0.3 of a second is the gap. And Balocon, oh, so I say Balocon, very close behind. Oh, Lord Nem goes wide. Will that create an opportunity for Coutillard? Nope. Lord Nem managed to get to the apex just in time, stops Coutillard cutting through. Sweep round the last corner. Oh, Balocon moves wide, swings wide, but manages to stay out of the gravel trap. Lord Nem looks to live to fight another day. The Mercedes has a look up the inside, but thinks better of trying to do the outbraking manoeuvre. And Balocon fallen back slightly after that slight slide out the final corner onto the start-finish straight. That would cost him speed all the way down the start-finish straight. Still, this group very close together. Lord Nem, Coutillard, Balocon, Yellon, and now Ayo is also on the back, and the Porsche of Tripiana. Oh, what's happened there? Balocon just seemed to suddenly slow down, but we went wide going to that corner. So Yellon straight through in the Ferrari. Balocon just seemed to pause slightly as he approached the corner and just went straight on. I hope he didn't have a connection issue. That's not the way you want to really make a place in a race. Little tiny gap now, and Ayo in the Mercedes. Balocon goes wide again. Surely Ayo can capitalise on that. Yep, he's up the inside. Balocon's lost 2 places in about 5 corners. Perhaps he's having some sort of technical issue, because now the Porsche of Tripiana is going to make that one stick up T1, and Balocon's troubles get worse. He's now got the Mercedes of Robinson right behind him, but he's making an attack back on Tripiana. Makes it work. Back up the inside of the Porsche within just 2 corners to get the place back. And Tripiana's back to being frustrated, trying to look for a way round Balocon. And they settle down again to continue the lap. Coutillard just 0.5 of a second behind them. Yellon now the car in close attendance instead of Balocon. And Ayo, the next car in the queue in another Mercedes. So Lord Nem hanging on valiantly, putting a good defence up, but he went a bit wide there. Coutillard's seen an instant opportunity, and Yellon's followed him straight through. Looks like Lord Nem, just as I'm crediting him with his resistance, he's lost 1 place. And it's a side-by-side battle all the way down the start-finish straight. And the BMW is pulling away from the Ferrari. Can Yellon make it under braking? No, he can't. So that was impressive acceleration from the BMW. Out-dragged the Ferrari down the start-finish straight to retain that place. But Coutillard is clear, and we'll see if he can pull away. Meanwhile, the group of cars behind Lord Nem will reassemble itself for the next in the queue to try and have an attack. Moving back to the front of the race, Blomqvist still in the lead, but now the gap to McCarthy is 5 seconds. So Blomqvist steadily pulling away, and the Season 4 Tier 7 champion does not appear to have a response, unable to close the gap. And the highly experienced Erty is just close behind. Times will correct themselves when Erty crosses the start-finish line. You just see, I think, the glimpse in the background there. Erty is another 4 seconds behind. In third place, Brzezinski in another Aston Martin. In fourth, and Ragnarsson in the 811 Mercedes in fifth place. So reasonable gaps at the front of the field. Back to the battle with this group. Lord Nem still being pursued by Yellon in the Ferrari IO behind, but Belocon and Trupiana have dropped quite a way back. Belocon now back in 23rd, Trupiana 24th. So I don't know what happened there. We missed that following the leaders up front. Lord Nem still holding on. Looks like that gap is maybe opening a little bit to the Ferrari and the Mercedes as they come around towards turn 7. And Coutillard has not just completely romped off in the distance. The gap's 1.5 seconds, so perhaps Lord Nem can keep in contact. Sweeping round turn 9 onto the short straight towards the hairpin of turn 10. Oh, that's a mistake. Lord Nem's gone wide on the hairpin. That'll easily let through both Yellon and Io. Lord Nem dropping 2 places there, going wide in the hairpin at turn 10. So now it'll be Yellon's turn to think about Io behind him and whether he can close the gap up towards Coutillard. Coutillard now has moved. Well, he was 1.5 seconds in front of Nem at the time. We'll find out when they cross the next sector and the computer updates itself. So the order now, Coutillard, Yellon, Io and Nem is 2 seconds from Yellon up to Coutillard. It's quite a gap. Moving back up towards the leaders, we have Ragnarsson and Van Rooyen in battle with each other. Van Rooyen trying an attack up the outside, coming into the hairpin at turn 10. Ragnarsson keeps on the inside, Van Rooyen goes wide. So Ragnarsson stays in front, but then Ragnarsson goes wide in the sweep in turn 12. So Van Rooyen's up the inside, he's got the prime position for the next corner and into the chicane. So Van Rooyen moves through. Ragnarsson pushed down into 6th place. Van Rooyen up into 5th. And up ahead, Brzezinski attacking Erty. At the same time, Brzezinski's got the inside for turn 1. Erty cannot do anything about that. So Erty slips back. So 2 passes, both within seconds of each other in the top 5. Further down the field, Coutillard is closing in on Bezic in the McLaren of Beeswax Racing. Coutillard makes a bit of a dive up the inside, but Bezic sticks to the racing line and closes the door. The gap now just 0.4 of a second. And as ever, whenever we cut to Coutillard, Io close behind. But it's pit stop time. Coutillard's pulled into the pits. Looks like Bezic stayed out, so this will be potential for undercuts or overcuts. The pit stops will make a big change to the outcome of this race. And we'll see some drivers starting to collect stop-go penalties. Wilson has picked up a stop-go 30-second penalty, so he's going to have to go back into the pits. They are always awarded for speeding in the pit lane. Drivers required to slow down to 50 kilometers an hour before hitting the pit lane marker, and looks like Wilson fell foul of that, and that will probably ruin his race even further. Wilson currently circulating in 25th place, so a stop-go is likely to push him to the back of the field in last place. So a disastrous opening round for the season for Wilson. A number of drivers down at the latter half of the field. Wilson was a top 10 finisher in Tier 7 for Season 4. Behind Wilson is Doucet, who finished 3rd in Season 4, Tier 7. So another quick driver right at the back of the field. And we have Nins of Team Beeswax Racing, who was 2nd place in Season 4 for Tier 7. So 2 out of the top 3 at the back of the field. Oh, disaster for James Frey. He's got a stop-go. He's been speeding in the pit lane himself. So we've just been witnessing James battling for quite high up positions. That's all going to go away from him with a 30-second penalty, plus the time it takes to get in and out of the pits. James will have 3 laps to serve that penalty. So drivers speeding in the pit lane will have quite a bearing on this race. Urti's got a stop-go as well. Urti was in the top 5, if I recall correctly. So that's a disaster for Urti. That's 2 drivers in the top 10 with stop-goes, who will see their hopes of a high finish fading away. I did see postings by Urti claiming he was a little bit rusty, and that is borne out by making the mistake of carrying too much speed across the pit lane start line. So key players who've had stop-goes: James Frey, who's now down in 22nd, Urti, who's now serving his stop-go. No other penalties being shown at the moment. Urti pulls out. Worst result would be for a driver to pick up another speeding penalty when going in to serve their stop-go. So at the moment, Przaszki's in the pits as well. All drivers required to undertake 1 pit stop to change tyres to make it equal. So currently Ragnarsson is leading the race, having not yet pitted, and the real marker for the leader will be Blomqvist in 5th, who's coming up to lap Doucet in the SpongeBob SquarePants Bentley boat. Don't believe Doucet's formed a team yet, so it's potential that the other Bentley drivers in the league may be eyeing up with some jealousy Doucet's paint scheme and might want to join him. I think his the other Bentley driver is Balocco, so maybe Balocco needs to drop Doucet a line, and we can have 2 SpongeBob SquarePants Bentleys on the line for the next race. So Blomqvist's lead is still more than intact, 8 seconds over McCarthy. Ragnarsson and Ayo still yet to pit. It'll be interesting to see whether either one of those drivers can slot in front of Przaszki currently looks to be in third place. So a good drive in the Aston Martin, if that is the case. He's showing just 1.6 seconds behind McCarthy. So I think that would put Przajski in third place. So Przajski will have very slowly and steadily made his way up the field to get into that position, because it's 9 seconds further back to Maruyan in the 777 Ferrari. So we have Ragnarsson just coming out of the pits from second place. Well, obviously he'll drop quite a way down the field. Right behind him is Sajak in the Ferrari number 88 of SVRT. Can Ragnarsson keep the Ferrari behind him? It's looking okay so far. It looks like Ragnarsson has made a good getaway, splitting the Ferraris that currently lie in 5th, 6th and now 8th. Ragnarsson slotted into 7th. But Becker was the big beneficiary there. I think he's moved up at least one place, because it was Becker versus Sajak just prior to the pit stops. So Ragnarsson losing out, Becker moving up. Becker doing a very good pit stop, because the gap between him and Ragnarsson is 4.8 seconds. Possible Becker took the option of not getting the car repaired, which is always worth evaluating in Assetto Corsa Competizione. A lot of drivers tend to leave repairs on, and it can cost you 4, 5, 6 seconds quite easily for what are minor cosmetic repairs, but those 5, 6 seconds are very difficult to make up on the road. Balocon now closing in on Lord Nem. Not seen these for a while. Just half a second, isn't it? You see Lord Nem not taking quite as wide a line as Balocon. And he lost the rear end then, Lord Nem. Balocon swept through quite easily, but Lord Nem managed to collect his car and not spin off the track, but has lost a lot of time, fallen quite a way back. And if that was Pries behind Lord Nem, then he might be in danger of losing that place as well. He lost a lot of momentum with that real tail slide. It is. So Pries closes right up on Lord Nem. Following the slide out the car, you can see how close it is. And there's Trupiana again, just in the background. See them all moving around behind Lord Nem, looking to create an opening, possibly hoping to put him off. It's a very wild attempt by Priest there. That was never going to come off. You can't get around that corner from that part of the track at that speed. Lord Nem wisely let Priest slide off the track, and instead it's Priest who loses a position to Trupiana. Priest's Porsche looking like, Trupiana's Porsche looking like it's been in quite a few battles this race. Damage to the front, the sides and the rear. Whereas, I don't know, Lord Nem's car looks pristine there. Very fitting for a Lord to have a very neat and tidy car. Just appears to have a few dead flies on it. We're on lap 23 and back up to the front. Lundqvist still waiting for Io to pit so he can take the lead back of the race. Just a matter of time. Meanwhile, Przajski showing a real turn of speed and has closed right up on McCarthy in the Lamborghini. He's coming down towards turn 7. McCarthy will be looking in his mirrors, driving defensively. They're coming up on Dusit, but that might not be a factor, as Przajski's just sent it straight up the inside, coming into the hairpin of turn 10. Przaszki made that look quite easy in many ways. Straight past the last season's champion. So Przaszki laying down, he's clearly a threat for this season and a driver to watch over the coming rounds. McCarthy slipping back a little bit. And Przaszki trying to pull away already. Przaszki's next target will be Blomqvist. That's a big ask though. We're 24 laps in. It'll only be between 30 and 32 laps for the entire race. And the current gap is 15 seconds to Blomqvist. That's unless Blomqvist has some big issues or decides to really kick back and relax, it'll be very difficult for Przaszki to close that gap. McCarthy seeing Przaszki just slowly pull away from him. The gap now 0.6. I'm sure McCarthy won't give up. We'll keep pushing to try and get back in the fight. Meanwhile, at the same time, back with Lord Nem and Trupiana. Priest now having slipped back following his attempt at the hairpin on turn 10, which didn't come off. Lord Nem lived to fight another day on that one. But Lord Nem have another twitch from the back of his car. That'll allow Trupiana to keep closing up. And Lord Nem's BMW seemed really slow then, and Trupiana immediately just dived up the inside. Took advantage of that slowness. Maybe he missed a gear or something. But Trupiana just swept through. So Trupiana moves up to 16th place. Lord Nem pushed down to 17th. Oh, Trupiana's got to drive through. Trupiana must have been cutting the track too many times. So after all that effort to get past Lord Nem, it's all going to be for nothing. This late in the race, it will be impressive indeed if Eduardo Trupiana can serve that penalty and get back out from the pits to pass even Lord Nem again. He's going to drop a number of places back. I'd imagine around between 21st and 22nd place, if not further. Ivanov's, there's currently a gap of 25 seconds between Dukes in 22nd and Ivanov in 23rd, so I imagine 22nd, 23rd will be the very lowest that Trupiana will finish or will be placed as he exits the pits following Servovinov's drive-through. Meanwhile, the front of a race, still waiting for Io to serve his pit stop. There's not many laps left. Finally, Io pulls into the pits and Blomqvist can resume the lead. So, critical for Io now in terms of his position in the top 10 is how quickly his pit crew can turn his car around. So Io slowing down there for the pit stop entry. Something some drivers in this race failed to do correctly, resulting in a 30-second stop-go penalty. We join Dami Io as he finally completes his mandatory pit stop. 25 laps into the race, that's a long way to carry a set of tyres. So where's he going to emerge? He's right in front, right alongside the McLaren of Steve Bezic, Beeswax Racing. Oh, but the McLaren goes a little bit wide there, little tail slide. So they're side by side. The McLaren just in front as they head down the straight towards turn 4, big hairpin. But will Io get his tyres up to temperature? Io slipped down to 13th place from his pit stop. Not a great stop, I think. I'm sure he was much higher than that before all the pit stop rounds. And it's possible that Io's tactic of staying out long on those heavily worn tyres has perhaps not paid off. So he's got tyres with good bite now as he tries to take a unusual inside line, but Bezic sweeps around the racing line and keeps the position. But his tyres will be a little bit cold now. And he's got to get them up to temperature, but to be down in 14th, I really think that the tactic of staying out long on worn tyres has not worked out for Io at all there. He was in a much better position, and it looks like everybody else has taken time out of him while he stayed out in front. Going through the chicane. Again, Io taking very tight lines that are not perhaps the quickest. It looks like he might have a fair exit there out of the chicane. Get some good speed on the back straight as they go side by side. But whatever happens for turn 1, Io now has the better inside line for the corner, forcing the McLaren, stopping it from sweeping through the apex. You see the McLaren giving it plenty of room there to ensure there's no coming together. And Io moves through to take P13. So we cut to Trippiani, just serving his drive through. It must be painful to be going that slowly, knowing you're losing places. This will be a penalty for cutting track limits. Drivers are given 3 warnings for gaining an advantage by cutting the track limits. And on the 4th incident, they get a drive-through penalty. But that penalty has pushed him down into 21st place. Just as predicted, he's got a decent gap to Duque behind him. But now he's 12 seconds behind James Free. And I think where we are in the race, on lap 27, it's a big ask for Trippiani to close up and make up any further places. But still, Erty is looking for Lord Nem to make some sort of mistake, give him an opening. Erty taking an unusual line there, trying to put Lord Nem on a defensive, and I think it worked because Lord Nem's car seemed to stop then on the hairpin bend of turn 10. Erty's on the outside of 12. So he's put Lord Nem on the wrong line for turn 13. That means he's through. Erty's got the better line for the chicane. He forced Lord Nem wide. And through he goes. Lord Nem slips back. All caused from a slight loss of speed coming out of turn 10 hairpin. Created the opening that Erty needed to take all the way through the complex of corners that makes up the 3rd sector and get the pass done. Moving into lap 30 of this race, and we have Ivanovs in the Lexus of AIS Racing. I don't know if he has a custom paint job for the car, but I've downloaded the custom skins and it's just showing us a very dark car. Maybe that's his favoured colour. Being chased by Yellon in the 65 SVRT Ferrari. The Aston Martin in front is a car that's a lap ahead. That is Farrell. Is in P11, but Farrell makes a bit of a big mistake there in the chicane and really slows down. So the 2 lap cars come through, but they are battling quite close. And if I was Farrell, I'd want to stay out of the way as well of these 2 battling. Yellon looks to make a move up the inside into turn 1, which is the better line to take because he'll stop. Ivanov's taking the apex. Ivanov tries to hang on to take the apex of 2, but Yellon carrying too much speed from that turn 1 and gets much better line through turn 3. So Ivanov's dropping back. That looks a good take for Yellon into 25th, but it's a long way down the field. I'm not sure it's where neither of them would prefer to be. And Ivanov's dropping right back, forced to make way for Farrell in P11. And McLaren of Bezic running low on fuel. And that information's accurate there. Only 6 litres left, and it's 3 litres a lap. And Blomqvist across the line for another lap into his 33rd. Or is it his 34th? I can never figure that out. Blomqvist into his final lap, still doing 1:44s. Przaszki behind him now, 20 seconds behind. Przaszki unable to close in on Blomqvist, but has pulled slightly ahead of McCarthy in third. The gap now because of Bezic trying to save fuel, trying to think of a plan to get to the end of the race with just 3 litres left, only enough fuel for one more lap. Balokin now just 3.5 seconds away, and I think he's just letting him through. He knows he can't fight. He can't do one more lap. There isn't enough fuel. It's coming in towards the chicane. I think there's one more lap of fuel in the car in that readout, if that data is correct, but it often isn't on these replays. And the McLaren touring to a stop. No way of, he's only got 2 litres of fuel, so the McLaren cannot do another lap and has to wait for our leader to come through. And there it was, the leader just came through, so that was the end of the race. And Bezic will have lost 2 places there. I think that was Erti going through as well. So Blomqvist wins, pulls over to the side of the track. Przaszki in second, and McCarthy in third. So looking at the full official results of round 1 from Circuit de Catalunya in Spain, Blomqvist finishes in first place. Kirill Przaszki in second place in the Audi, and Conor McCarthy finishes in third in the Lamborghini. And the rest of the places are available on screen. Confirmed that Bezic did finish 16th after his fuel crisis at the end of the race, so managed to just stay ahead of Lord Nem, who was hovering in the background for most of the race. And in an update received after the race was officially over a couple of days later, Daniel Blomqvist, having demonstrated some exceptional speed in that race, pulling well clear of the field, has actually been moved up to a higher tier. So in terms of the Drivers' Championship, although this table does show Daniel Blomqvist in first place, coming out the first round, looking towards the Teams' Championship, there are only 2 teams officially registered going into round 1. SVR team take the lead with 65 points, Beeswax Racing in second. SVR team helped to that first place in the table by Thomas Sajak, finishing in 8th place. And the second SVR team car, Daniel Yellon, finishing in 23rd. Beeswax Racing was Steve Bezic, who we saw slipping back 2 places at the finish line, finishing 16th. And Nils Nins, who had a bit of a disaster of a race, finishing in 26th. So that explains the pretty big gap in points, but it's only the opening round. Anything can happen in the next 8 rounds. So please tune in next time to find out what happens in both the Drivers' Championship and the Teams' Championship, and whether any more teams are registered before next week's round, and the actual outcome of the race itself. Well, as I said, weather is predicted to be rain throughout the race at Zonda. That race taking place on Tuesday the 22nd of September, and qualifying will commence at 7:30 UK time.